Welcome to another episode of the Lords of Consciousness Podcast. I am your host, Clint Culberson, and I am here back again. We had our big announcement for the website, the last one, and we're coming off on hiatus. And like I said, we're here to we're here dusting the podcast back off because it's time to really get out there again and make this happen because there's so many epic conversations that are going to be had. And I'm here tonight. I have a guest host, Mr. Richie Jones, my housemate, my brother in arms. How you doing, Richie?
Doing well. What about yourself tonight, Clint?
Hold on. Let me see if I can hear you better. Hold on. Do that again, Richie.
Doing well. What about yourself tonight, Clint?
Doesn't Richie sound like a black man? Because he does. Well, Richie, we are my large black man friend. We're honored to have one of our fellow content creators, Mr. Chance Garton. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up? Super stoked to be on the Lords of Consciousness podcast because, I've been a fan of the podcast for a while, ever since I found out about it, and I've never been a guest on a podcast before. So it's kind of like a weird moment I just had. I was really excited.
Hell yeah, dude. You dreamt this into existence, my friend.
Man, I did. I dreamt about it for years, wanting to be a podcaster. And ever since I started listening to them, really, but the fire inside grew to the point where it burned everything else away, I guess. And now I'm doing it. Yeah.
Yes, dude. For those who don't know, Chance is the host of the Innerverse Podcast. And we just literally finished doing an episode of the Innerverse Podcast with Chance and I. And I was on as his guest, and now he's on as our guest, and Richie's joined me, and we're gonna have an epic time because Chance, dude, you, my friend, blew my mind away in our Innerverse podcast, and we were talking about some amazing stuff, and I don't expect anything less from this one, boys. So get your fucking A games on because we got some fucking explaining to do.
It's 420. We're gonna go deep. That's all I gotta say.
420. Dude, 420, what a beautiful day. It's so funny. You're a stoner when half of your friends all around the country are texting you specifically, and your non-stoner friends are texting you, happy 420. So thank you, everyone. Beautiful day to honor a herb that has completely changed my life. It's one of the great medicines. The programming that we've all received about it is total, absolute trash, to be honest with you. And it's okay. It's okay. We've all been brainwashed to some extent. So we're here to honor a plant that is just absolutely amazing, and it's finally spreading across the country, like we were saying, Chance. The legalization of cannabis is finally coming to us. Sure, the government now is the drug dealer, but we'll get there eventually.
It's coming to you guys, but we're not quite there yet where I'm at.
Yeah, so where do you live, Chance? Tell the peeps.
Okay, so I'm in southwest Missouri in another town called Springfield. There's a lot of Springfields out there. Yeah. My friends around here are so high, though, despite the illegality of it, that not a single person texted me happy 420. They couldn't even reach their phones, I guess. But I didn't text anybody that either. Maybe they're all just busy like me. I'm too busy. I barely get a fraction of all the stuff done I want to do, which is an awesome problem to have because the worst times in my life are always when I was not busy.
Yeah, there's something about that, isn't it?
But, you still want to go still sometimes, like meditate and stuff, but...
Well, you find the life of balance, right? You find out that working all the time, that doesn't work. Finding out just chilling and doing nothing all the time, honestly, you start getting depressed after a while.
Oh, for sure.
So you kind of have to find the balance, with work is good, man. Work makes you feel good. It's like scratching an itch that we all have, and you'll feel really good. The weed will taste and feel that much better after a hard day's work. That's what I'm finding.
Well, what about during a hard day's work?
In the perfect world, that is the way it would be. So.
Yeah, anyone that I work with that somehow found this podcast, I've never been high at work a single time.
Ever.
Definitely not today on 420. But in reality, though, I am in a process of trying to maybe reduce my usage because doing it most of the day or all day does take away from the impact of doing it.
Very much so. I have found that since I moved here. I've really, taken down the amount I did from back home. I haven't had the need to do it so much. It's definitely a different experience when you don't need it all the time.
Oh, it's completely true. I mean, I've experienced it. I mean, I've had some times, last year when I was, having this long distance relationship with Brooke and just kind of stressing out about it, and I sometimes used it a little bit as a crutch to help me, because to be honest with you, it does really, when I'm having a tough day, it helps me go in and find what's really going on. Sometimes when, I'm just having a shitty day, and not that you shouldn't feel it, because there's a beauty in just feeling the discomfort and all that, but does really help me get in on myself and really figure out what the real truth. Why am I angry? Why am I angry at this person? When I smoke, there's something about the weed, just like Bob Marley said, that helps me see the real issues, the real me, my part in the matter. And we don't want to ever abuse it, man. Graham Hancock was always famous for that.
He's the one that first got me thinking about it. Thank you again, Powerful Joe Rogan Podcast, for bringing that story. Although I think I've heard him tell that story in other podcasts, but I probably wouldn't have been listening to those podcasts without having first gotten into Joe Rogan.
So when did you find Joe Rogan?
Okay. I was in college, and I had a really badass roommate named Billy who was into jiu-jitsu, and that's how he ended up getting into the Joe Rogan Podcast, was because he was into jiu-jitsu. So, it was pretty heady, and me and Billy smoked together all the time, and that was at a period of my life where I'd been smoking for about a year, and I was in what you would call the process of waking up, learning to meditate, learning to change myself, get healthier, and I learned how to start taking better care of myself. And basically, I think what marijuana was able to do for me is it didn't change my behavior as being an addict, or like we were talking about in our first interview, being a minor. And by that I mean like a child in your mind, and needing to mine for external things in the reality to take energy. So that can come in a variety of forms. Some people are minors or vampires to other people. They need to make other people feel how they feel, or make other people feel like they're right in some way to take energy from the situation and therefore boost their mind power. Some people need to take their energy from food, and that's why they end up choosing certain foods because they think it's going to give them energy, or energy drinks are a really good example of that. People think energy drinks are going to help them get through this or that. And in reality, it's all an object in your mind. So, placebo effect is proof that if you think something is going to work for you, it's going to work for you to an extent. But if you're using something for energy in a way that's really imbalanced, like constantly using it the way that I've kind of been for a long time with marijuana, and I switched from food being that thing to marijuana being that thing, which was a good replacement, actually, because I ended up losing a lot of weight and getting a lot healthier. And it's an interesting plant teacher, because it does begin to suggest its own disuse at the point when its use is no longer that medicinal for you. I'd like to really think there was a good period of time where using it all day, every day, was good for me, and I should have done it, and I did, but that's not now.
Amen. I totally understand what you're saying there. That's our rates of consumption will change over time. There's no doubt about it. So, Chance, it's so awesome to have you here, because you're coming on board. We're all kind of collaborating together in this really awesome project that we call the Lords of Consciousness media site. And you're coming on board as a content creator. And I really want people to understand who you are, because they're going to get some of you, you know, they're going to get to know you in a way that you don't normally get to see in an author of a blog or something like that. You know, you kind of see their brilliance, but you don't know who the hell this guy is. Like, who is this guy? He's really brilliant, but, you know, I want to kind of feel him, experience him. And I believe that when our audience gets to experience that there will be a connection. And I believe that your audience is going to really be in for quite a treat, man, because you bring such a perspective to the table, my friend. And tell those who are listening kind of where you've come from and how you've gotten here. What's led you here? What happened? What was your hero's journey? What was your story?
Yeah, I could go a lot more into that, because in the Hero's Journey of Chance Garton video that's on the LOC site, I admit it was a little rushed. I admit that also I was very raggedy, because I was in the middle of a 5-day juice-only fast and cleansing my root chakra.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I think I want to redo it. But I want to start, though, by just thanking the Lords of Consciousness community for being what it is, honestly, my podcast wouldn't exist without Lords of Consciousness. I really mean that, because I'd thought about doing it for a couple of years. I'd had a lot of podcasts that I listened to for years. I knew exactly how I would do it. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I never took the step to do it until I seen LOC and how the podcast was. It didn't matter that I got rid of the barrier if I needed to be Duncan Trussell Family Hour or Joe Rogan podcast, or it's not worth doing.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
That stupid, like that stupid thing that we all have with our art or our creation, that we don't do it because we don't see it as being worth it if it's not the best. But I saw that Lords of Consciousness it didn't need to be the most downloaded podcast. It was the perfect podcast for its community.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I was like, oh, all I've got to do is start taking those steps, and the community will form around me, because I have the community, right? Like, even so what? I have 50 friends that would listen to it if I made it right now, which is true. Even if all I have is 50 friends or 20 friends or 10 friends that are going to listen to it, those are the right 10 people that are needing that information, because they're choosing to access it. It's a lot different than the old styles of media where you were stuck to your programming and you just got what you got. In the new format, you get to choose your programming. You get to choose your tribe. You get to choose your community. You get to choose your intake in every way. And that's always been true, but we were blinded by limited choices, and we were kept from understanding the source of these choices and the source of things in general. So my life has been, very easy to describe life. Not pretty standard American white kid. I'm 27. I just turned 27, so I guess I'm not a kid anymore. But I still feel like a kid, which is good, probably. Maybe.
That is a very
definitely.
Good thing.
I'd say I have the maturity level, maybe like just now reaching, say, 21, 20. But yeah, I started from normal background, suburban. Springfield is a college town, so less than 200,000 people. And I lived in a small town right near it growing up. And my parents, really nice parents, gave me whatever I wanted most of the time. Never treated me bad. Always made me feel like I could do anything I wanted. And maybe in some ways you could say they limited me by not making me work for things, and my work ethic therefore suffered. But there's a lot of people that are given a lot of things in life and they still have a good work ethic. So ultimately it's the choice. It's your choices. And my parents gave me the things they gave me because their parents didn't give them much, and maybe it was overcompensating. That's why they're easy on me. But I appreciate them. I love them. They made me who I am. I'm very lucky to have had such an easy time of it, because I think it gives me a more, in some ways, people will see me as having a more innocent perspective, because I have a very idealistic way of looking at things, and I want to see the best in every situation and every person. And a lot of times I'm accused of being unrealistic because of that. But until I've proven wrong that people are in their core good, and everyone wants the same thing, which is to be recognized and loved and be able to express their love. Until I'm proved wrong on that, I'm going to keep believing it, because I've had nothing but infinite proof that consciousness of wanting to grow together, wanting to laugh together, wanting to be in balance with each other exists in everybody. And even angry people don't really want to be in that situation forever. Even a killer didn't start out as a baby as a serial killer. They started out as the exact same DNA blueprint as all of us. And so the thing that led me to wanting to be a podcaster, I guess, would have been as I started to shed the paradigms of our culture and of Christianity, for example, that I was given, and I started to explore, going back to cannabis, that really opened my mind to the idea that, well, if they don't want you to know about this and about substances, then what else that they don't want you to know about is actually awesome. And so
that was my same experience, man.
And so from there, I've been very interested in shamanism and in the occult, which occult just means that which is hidden. I've been very interested in gnosis, or knowing the cosmos and knowing the source of things, because just like you can go from eating supermarket food or fast food where you don't know who grew it or where it came from, to knowing where your food came from because you start growing it yourself. I believe you can also go from not knowing your creator, not knowing human origin, not understanding these things, to eventually knowing them.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
So deep.
Isn't it amazing? I almost trip out that, wait, we can actually know this? I used to believe that too, man. I was like, man, you can't know. No one can know.
That's what we're programmed. Just like we're programmed not to love ourselves, we're also programmed to think only God knows everything. Well, that may be true, that you're not ever going to be able to contain all knowledge, but you might be able to know more than you know now. So why not try?
Amen.
Exactly. I love it.
What a journey you've been on, dude. When did have you always kind of had an inclination for your own spirituality, or did that come later in life?
I guess you could say, yeah. I was raised like Baptist Christian, and that started off really ugly. Not that it was an abusive church or anything, but the Sunday school teacher that I had as a kid told us some far out stuff about the history of the world. You've got your classic, it's only a few thousand years old, of course. They told me just such fantastically ridiculous things that I was able to be quite skeptical later on. But I did buy into things at first. I was skeptical of that dogma, though. And, an example of a crazy thing they told me was that the dinosaurs were big for the same reason that people used to live to be hundreds of years old, because for some reason there was a bunch of water around the earth in a sheath, and that blocked harmful rays from the sun and caused animals to get bigger and people to grow older and be healthier. And whenever God got mad at people, he dropped all that water on the earth and it killed everything. And that's what the flood was. And that's why people and animals don't grow as far as they used to. Wow. Because that water isn't there protecting us. That's just one weird thing they told me. I've really blanked out most of it since then. But I ended up getting my family to switch to a Methodist church. And if you're not Christian, then denominations mean nothing to you. But Baptist is kind of more fire and brimstone, fundamentalist, whereas Methodist is more love is the answer, and Jesus is about love, and they don't even necessarily believe in the concept of hell and things like that. It was actually a way different. It was two polar opposite ends of Christianity for me. So, unfortunately, after I became a teenager and started, the internet started exposing me to conspiracy theories and stuff like that, I went really dark for a while. I went into atheism, but also got into a relationship where I was with somebody. Yeah, I got into a relationship with someone that was still highly religious, though, and so I put up an external persona of being religious, while of being Christian and believing, while internally I was an atheist. And I wasn't even getting any. I was it was terrible. I'm sorry. I very much apologize to that girl for putting her through being with me at that time, because I got way unhealthy at that point. Like, that was high school and the end of high school and the beginning of college. And I just ate tons of patty melts at the dining halls at college, and drank tons of Mountain Dew, and never exercised, and played World of Warcraft all the time, and went into a really dark place of just wanting to be distracted as constantly as possible. And that was until I was really lucky to have some amazing teachers in college. That I was an English major, and there's some very thoughtful people at University of Missouri English department. I'm not even going to be able to remember all their names of the teachers necessarily, but one of them was this guy named Scott Cairns, who taught a story called Writing the Spiritual Journey. And the class was essentially oriented around one big paper that you write at the end, where you're supposed to write your own spiritual journey. You just write about your own spiritual path, what spirituality means to you. Even if that means nothing to you, you still have to explain why it means nothing to you and really reflect on it. And from that point on, and from that class onward, I began thinking again about things bigger than just material things. And right after that, the very next semester, I hit a pretty low point in my life where I ended up not taking any classes but one, and was just working, and almost got out of school, which would have maybe not hurt me that bad, but it also would have been a big blow to my family. So it's good that I finished. And anyway, the class that I ended up being in was about meditation, and the class was, you meditate with the group of classmates, and you talk about writing. And outside of class, all you have to do is write 15 minutes a day, anything you want. So it was like teaching you the value of daily practices. And that was it. Once I began contemplating spirituality, and I figured out that daily practices could have a huge impact on your life direction, because 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day accumulates really quickly. I started meditating when I could. I didn't become a consistent meditator until, I don't know, I'm still not necessarily a perfectly consistent meditator, but it's become a more and more important tool in my life ever since I learned it. And it was how I was able to start exercising again, and it was how I was able to change. It was how I was able to just change a lot of things about myself. Not the meditation. I don't go into meditation and like, okay, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. It's just about having, it's about knowing that what you do every day defines you as a person. And about, like, I try to think about this all the time. I mean, Joe Rogan says, what would you do if you were the hero of your own movie? Another way to think about that is, if you could describe your perfect day, what things would you do in that day that would make it perfect? How many of those things can you fit into every day of your life? That's the question that needs answered.
One more time, that last part.
Okay. What's the perfect day? What are the things you would do on a perfect day?
Okay, got it.
And how many of these things can you fit into every day of your life as consistently as possible?
Nice. That is.
And always be thinking about that. Change what those things are if they change.
Say that again.
And if those things be in real time with that, like if those things change, then they change. But always be thinking along those lines. Don't get stuck in a pattern where you never do what you want to do.
Oh, it's so true, man. I think we've all experienced it, though. I mean, you ever get to that? You remember that point in your life where you're like, dude, what am I doing, man? I hate everything that I'm involved in right now. It's just terrible. So I got to change something.
I'm sure Richie's been there too.
When was that moment for you?
Well, I think that moment comes multiple times in a person's life, really.
Yeah, that's true.
It came for me, a lot of times it comes at the end of relationships or during relationships, that I have known from the beginning I had no purpose being in or business being in. And that always kind of culminates as a explosion of, I got to get out of this, finally taking action and doing it. But also, it got really dark for me as I was getting to the end of college, because I really didn't have a vision for myself. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was not needing to work very much. I was kind of getting supported by my parents a little bit. So I had a lot of free time, but marijuana, it won't let you ignore your true self. Where before I was a smoker, I could spend 40 hours a week playing video games if I wanted to. Seriously, quite easily. And it wouldn't bother me. It's just what I did since I was a little kid. And I did other stuff as a kid. I did sports. I was a reader, but I always found a shitload of time for video games. But as I spent more time with cannabis, it became harder and harder to ignore that voice in my head saying, hey, don't you think you should fucking do something else?
Exactly.
Trust me, Richie and I have been down this rabbit hole ourselves.
Yeah, well, I still struggle with that because I still like video games, but...
Me too.
Don't play NBA 2K at all. No.
No, I'm not at level 55 on Star Wars Battlefront. Motherfucker.
Oh, that's badass. Well, look, you guys are creating the LOC content and the website and being pillars of this community, and you're still finding a little bit of time of video games. So that gives me a little bit of hope. The great Duncan Trussell plays video games.
Of course, man. You got to channel it a little bit. I mean, it's my connection with my stepson. It's plus it brings me back. It's just the point you're getting at, though, is balance.
Yep.
It's all about bringing back things of your childhood as well. Like, there are things that kind of defined you as a child. And for me, those things were video games. And I hate to admit this, but professional wrestling. I'm sorry. I still watch it. It sucks now, but I still watch it. So that's my connection to my childhood. So, okay.
Yeah, the one game I've been playing lately is called Elder Scrolls Online. It's like a big fantasy, massive multiplayer online game. And talking about childhood, the predecessor games to that were also each enormous immersive worlds where you played as a single player in a impossibly infinitely long, basically never-ending type of game, fantasy scenario with really cool story, really cool settings, and everything about the world and the cultures in the world were parallel to things in the real world. There was a culture that was sort of Romanesque. There were, desert cultures, and and what was cool is they have pantheons of gods in that game, but different cultures have different ways of describing and naming different gods or don't believe in certain gods. So there's conflicting history accounts that you'll find within the game. There's not one true correct history even. It's really cool. And I can't help it. I love that type of a thing. I think as creators that we all are, it's important that we spend at least a little time appreciating other people's creations. Otherwise, how are we ever going to expect our creations to be appreciated?
Amen. Ding, 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 ding. Dude, that was awesome. I couldn't agree more. If we're not supporting each other, if all it is about your art and your creation, if all you're doing is just trying to get your followers, or you're not supporting anyone else, that might be the reason why you're having trouble finding people interested in your stuff, And my mom always taught me this from a Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You can gain a lot more, you can gain twice as many friends in 2 hours by being interested in them than you could in 2 weeks by trying to get them to be interested in you.
Yeah, but the most hardcore artists that create the most insane shit work so hard that their friends don't see them for months, and their stuff is so cool that they don't have to do any self-promotion or marketing. Everything comes to them.
That is true.
But it is important to engage with the community. One of the regrets with how busy I am in my life is I actually don't get to post and comment on people's posts in the LOC group as much as I'd like to. I try to jump in there at least once a day. I try to at least check out whenever people I'm personally friends with post in there. But as far as like engaging with the larger community, it's hard for me.
It's like, you're right. Sometimes you got to go in. Like we've been doing that with the website. It's like we haven't been able to get in the community as much and comment on everything that we, in the way that we did in the past. But it's okay, man. There's phases of our lives. There's phases that we have to put in some intense energy to create what we need to create. And then you, like you said, you come out and you get it with your community. You charge your battery in that way, and then. And you charge it by giving. There's like that aspect of altruism that we all must tap into, because it's an itch we must scratch. To be a balanced human being, it feels really amazing too. I mean, maybe that's selfish to say, right?
You have to give, and you have to also receive with awareness and consciousness. So you have to know what you're receiving and decide that you're receiving it and appreciate what you're receiving, instead of just receiving the negative energies of your environment because they're being thrown at you, and not learning to transform those.
Yep.
But it also comes to like taking gifts. I was at a festival a couple weekends ago. Shamanic Boom is what it was called. And as I was leaving, I was thinking about how, fuck, I'm kind of broke right now. I didn't sell very much art at this festival. I didn't really hustle at all, so it's my own fault. And there weren't a lot of people there. And it was really about healing a community. I didn't care about trying to make some money. But I was like kind of thinking, damn, it's going to be hard for me to maybe eat every night until my next paycheck. But I'll figure it out. It'll be no problem. There's always enough. And as that was happening, we walked by a guy that's on the ground packing up his stuff because we're all leaving. And he's like, hey, do you want some of this food? Here, take some food. Just take whatever you want out of this bag. I was like, no, man, I couldn't take your food. And I really resisted him for a second. He was like, no, take some. I was like, no, it's okay. And he's like, dude, seriously, I need you to take some of this food out of this bag. And so I finally took some. And as I was taking it, he's like, do you guys know about food banks? Yeah, there's in every community, there's places where you can just go and get free food. No questions asked. They're just there to help. And, I wouldn't suggest abusing that kind of thing, but you should go check it out. If you ever need help, that's what it's there for. And I was like, oh, I'm in a position where I should be helping people and not taking help, is what I said to him. And his response to that was like, well, do you think you give a lot? And I was like, sometimes I think I give a lot. And he says, well, you have to learn to receive as well. Sometimes it's good to receive, and it's a balanced thing to receive. And that's a lesson that I
needed to hear that. Thank you.
I've relearned that a bunch of times in life. I mean, it's not the first time that's come to me. I keep forgetting it. And it's about reciprocity. It's about a right reciprocity. I think Peruvian word for it is like Añi or Aini or something like that. Man, I'm butchering that. It's like Ayni, I think. And the concept is being in reciprocity with every aspect of the life that you can. So that means with a good balanced relationship with the earth, a good balanced relationship with yourself, with your community. And essentially, if you create that, you're going to be high on your own supply all the time. There'll be no person or thing that can ever fuck with you, because you know the source of every energy you're taking in. You're choosing to take in everything that you choose to take in consciously. And there's no saboteurs in the supply line that are trying to take a little energy off the top. Middlemen, parasites, all these things are things we're eliminating from the reality by increasing our level of connection to one another directly.
God, man.
Love it.
Let me ask you this. Where do you think this is all headed from a collective standpoint? We're talking about kind of the inner journey so often, but from a collective standpoint, where is this headed? Where are you seeing it going?
I think we are heading to a level of connectivity that is so beyond what we can imagine right now that it's kind of hard to fathom. It's as hard to bring back as the psychedelic experience itself. I think that there is an in and out to reality is a charge and a discharge type of system. It's breath, exhalation. There's always that in and out. And you, even in the symbols of the words in and out, you have that binary. Like in starts with an I, which looks like a 1, and out starts with a 0, which is symbolic for the circle or everything, the sphere. You have the 1 and the everything, in and out. It's basically positive and negative. That's how everything exists. It's a context between these two poles. But there is also what the Greeks, the idealists like Socrates, called the realm of ideal form, or ideal forms, or ideals. And that concept is that in your mind, you can think of, say, the word chair. And that word chair, that concept chair, represents all chairs that have ever existed or could exist, regardless of what they're like, are represented by that concept in your mind. And it's sort of like there's the single chair that you're sitting in right now, and then there's the infinite chair. And that's how, and there's a bunch of different ways that could be. That's how humans are to God or the infinite. There is a realm of ideal forms or potentials where all things exist in a state of kind of, you could call it darkness, but it's potentiality. It's like you don't know what's in a dark room until you turn the lights on. And that's why we have this side of the experience that we call life, where we're separated and individuated points of consciousness, because by being able to reflect light back and forth between the infinite and the one, which is the self, we're able to find out what we know, find out what the infinite contains. It's like each person is a lighthouse in the darkness, and our inner voice or our higher selves know everything, is everything, but can't answer our questions unless we ask the questions. That's why living life with intention is really important. You keep your intentions constantly in mind so that your external reality, which is also just that other side of you that you're reflecting back and forth between, like two mirrors facing each other, can give you what you're asking for. And it's always doing that. It's what you're focused on that it's bringing to you. It's how you think about things is how they are. How you expect people to be is how you're going to treat them, is how they're likely to be. But that's the magic of it. We're able to influence each other. There is the opportunity for somebody to act differently than you expect and give you a jolt and wake you up out of the dream you've been sleepwalking through. Or there's the possibility, even greater still, of being that jolt to another person. And I think we're all here to find our way to remind each other that it's a dream and that we can do what we want.
It's kind of like, to me, what you just described is kind of like a computer. Now everything is binary, and everything is either 1 or 0. So basically, society is either I like you or I don't like you. Quantum computers now can compute endlessly, and those connections are endless, just like, we have. We have these endless connections in this group. And are you a light worker at all, Chance?
Yeah, I would consider that to be.
I feel that from you. That's why I asked that. So as a fellow light worker myself, you can really connect with these people, which is really insane. Like how you can send energy to each other and actually feel it. So these connections are just adding up and adding up and adding up, and it's just a beautiful thing to watch.
And you asked me where I thought we were going with this, to explain that maybe with finality. I think we're going from binary to trinary, actually. So you have binary, which is hot, cold, or positive, negative. But trinary is where you create a point like a triangle that is between and in a dimension away from the other 2 points. So we really are literally expanding to another dimension, another, if you consider dimensions the way you're supposed to, which is that it's just another way of moving, or another type of perception. They say that in occult studies, they say that we're here to grow our auras, which is our light body, go back to being a light worker. So I think whenever you make connections with people and you connect to your source, you grow your light body a little bit. You heal holes that have formed in your aura. You're more able to live your dreams because you're more able to dream while you're living. I think that's why we come down into these individuated forms, so we can change and grow and evolve, and that changes the collective in turn.
Yep, we're all puzzle pieces. We're all coming together.
Yeah. We all you have to do is save yourself. That's what I figured out. If you save yourself, then everybody else will save themselves.
Exactly. You got to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
You certainly can't expect anyone else to do that if you're not doing it.
Savior Jesus guy coming down from the heavens, like he exists already in you, okay?
Coming from psychedelic Mexican Jesus.
God, it's a beautiful depiction, what the way you see it, and the way that you are piecing the puzzle pieces together in order to paint this picture that you just did, man. And the really cool thing about it is that you start meeting so many people who are putting the same puzzle pieces together in like a very similar way. And then all of a sudden, when you keep hearing it time and time again, and then you match it up to your own, additions, because really we're putting together like endless amounts of variables into getting this vision that you're talking about, and it's this, it's not just how do I say it? It is a combination of science along with the spiritual realm, and when we combine them together, they start matching up, and that's when you have to start really giving credence to the spiritual realm as something that is much more tangible than we probably can imagine, and intangible all at the same time, but it's much more definable, and we're learning how to define it and see it, and to be able to just call it for what it is, and get out of the five senses world and realizing that there's much more going on than that.
What's interesting is technology really just imitates perceptual abilities and physical abilities of biology.
Yeah, isn't that true?
To anybody wanting to go down this rabbit hole a little farther, there's a book called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Amazing book. I mean, one of the things that really opened my mind to this whole world. And, I mean, it's just amazing how strong our minds are, how we can heal ourselves, how you can heal others. I mean, it's just amazing. All it takes is a single thought. So just anybody...
You can do whatever you want.
There's no limits.
Look into the concept of morphic resonance, Robert Sheldrake's idea that basically everything in a species is connected in a field of mind. And I think all life is connected in this web, not just the net of Indra is what they call that in Hindu mythology. The weave that connects all living beings, the grid that you see whenever you take psychedelics that comes down. All of us are already connected at the same level of completeness that the heavens that we perceive during psychedelic trips or during dreams, as that level of connectivity. The full level of connectivity is already here. The singularity or whatever is already here. We just have any barriers between those connections are in our minds, because there's nothing but our minds to begin with.
Exactly. Oh man, Chance, I could talk to you all day.
I know, dude. You trip people out, bro.
I hope so.
I love it, dude. I love going down these rabbit holes. They're just so deep, and just so few people think of them, and how far things go, and how ancient cultures really had it right, even though most people think they're crazy. So,
man, real crazy idea. What if ancient cultures are actually all still there, and they're just on such a high level of connectivity that we can't see them through our mental barriers?
Oh, exactly. It's kind of like they said, when Columbus came, nobody could see the ships but the shaman, because
the future is the past.
But they didn't know what a ship looked like, So how are they going to know what it is? So
yeah, like, you guys ever think, like you look at these planets in our solar system, and they look like they're just like these wastelands, pretty much. You know, Venus is 400 degrees, you know, of just greenhouse gas gone crazy, right? But yet on the surface, you can see like riverbeds and shit. You know, it's like something was there at one point. And
I think something's still there. I think an intelligent species would have figured out how to go inside the spaceship instead of living on the outside. I think we're actually going to do that eventually. If we don't figure out a planetary defense system against volcanoes and asteroids, then we're going to need to get underground. It's just, otherwise we're not going to be able to preserve what we built. At least some part of our civilization is going to need to. I think that it's very likely that there's internal civilizations on planets out there. But it's also very possible that this is the only planet that exists in that every planet is actually this planet. And that we are all places. Like in a hologram, every point of information is accessible from every other point. Like it might be that all the other planets are actually here. We just don't know how to go to them from here, if that makes sense. Because it's all about like faster than light travel is more of a mental barrier to be broken than a physical law of the universe. And that's if you are interested in light work, Richie, then you probably have at least attempted to do some astral travel or shamanic journey work and explore some of the reality outside your body.
Yep,
I actually just had my first conscious out-of-body experience on purpose last night. It was crazy.
What? Okay, here we go.
It's not very complicated. Well, maybe I should explain the colon cleanse and root chakra cleanse that I did after I explain this story, but it's not a very complicated tale. Last night, as I was falling asleep, and this has happened to me a bunch of times, but I've always fought the feeling and not been able to realize what it was. But as I was falling asleep, this paralyzing feeling of electricity takes over my whole body. And like I said, this has happened to me a bunch of different times, and I used to get really scared when it would happen, and I would fight it until I finally was able to move again and wake myself up. But I realized that this was actually my body, or my mind, or my light body leaving my physical body. And it was happening because I was falling asleep with awareness. I wasn't just turning off. I wasn't becoming unconscious. This is how sleep is supposed to be. You're not supposed to just shut off and forget everything that happens. And I wasn't having dreams for a while, so I've been trying to find a way to fix that. And last night, instead of just passing out, blacking out like I normally would, I felt the energy coursing through my body, but my body was asleep. I couldn't move. I felt myself start feeling the sensation of rising, like I was leaving my body. And I just went with it. And I was lifting up. And eventually I was out and I was floating and could actually float around. I looked down and everything was really dark and dim, but it was dark in the room. But I could see myself laying there. I could see my body. And I was like, this is it. I finally did it. I'm finally here. I'm finally out of my body. Holy shit. And I moved towards the door to go out and do I don't know what. And that's it. I don't remember what happened after that. But I'm hoping to be able to remember further and further and come back with more of my experiences and maybe even control my experiences more lucidly in the out-of-body realm, and with some other techniques that I've been trying to work into my life whenever I have time, maybe do out-of-body stuff on purpose without needing to be falling asleep for it.
Did you see the cord at all? I've done it once, and it wasn't purposely. Like
the silver cord?
The silver cord. I had the silver cord hanging out of me, and that freaked me out, and I went back into my body.
I couldn't see. I don't remember if I could see the cord or not. I'm familiar with the concept, so maybe I did. But, it's just like a dream or maybe like a DMT experience. I'm still, my story of the memory is more the memory than the memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can never get past the point of tingling. Like, I've tried to use the technique of imagining myself like flipped in my bed so my head are at my feet and vice versa, but I can never get past the tingling sensation. I can make it to feel like I've got thorns like pushing through me, but I never can push out, and it's just...
Yeah, it happens spontaneously to me.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
it freaked me out for a while, but yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to have more experiences like that consciously and be able to remember them. And I'm really grateful for this conversation, guys, because I forgot that even happened until just now. It's like,
oh wow,
oh shit, I remember my dream. Like I forgot, like, because I woke up a bunch of times in the middle of the night last night because of that cleanse I was on. It was miserable. I think I peed every hour, every night of it.
So good for you, but so tough.
Yeah.
So tell us about that experience.
Okay, so, and you can check out a few episodes of Innerverse to get more about this, because my buddy Chris and I did it together and documented it a little more, but I'll definitely go over it here. It was a colon cleanse kit. I said clit. A colon cleansing kit that I got from a website called secretenergy.com. And they were they were getting supplied from a place called blessedherbs.com. You could get it from either place, I suppose. And Secret Energy is a really interesting website that has a lot of occult information on it. The guy who runs the podcast at that place, Seven Bomar, he's got a lot of good information, especially when it comes to cleansing the body and how the body works on a light level and physical level. So me and my friend Chris, having been followers of his podcast and stuff, we finally got on and bought his, not his, but the colon cleanse kit that he recommended. And, you know, I had a lot of resistance to doing it, just like anything that's good for you. But I'm super happy I did it. The process involved slowly reducing my food intake for 3 days until on the fourth day I began a liquids only fast. And so I was drinking nothing but apple juice and grape juice and some vegetable broth. That's harder it's harder in some ways than I thought it would be, but it was easier in other ways because the kit involved a toxin absorber that you could take, and it gave you, okay, I'm squirming because I have to pee. I'll be right back. I'm going to pick up where I left off about the toxin absorber, and I'll edit out this chunk even of me leaving.
Oh, you don't have to. We'll just, Richie Jones.
Hey, what's up, Clint?
This is
okay. Yeah.
I feel like I need to hear this. By the way, like
I'll pick up where I left off on the toxin absorber, though, for sure. I'll be right back.
Richie,
my bladder is weak.
No worries, dude.
You drink nothing but liquid for a week. It's totally understandable.
Yeah, jeez. Well, I think my higher colon is telling me, listen to this man right now.
Exactly.
36 years of eating processed foods and fast foods and whatever. Like, who knows what's in my gut?
Imagine those first 30 years, okay? Those first 30 years were absolutely terrible. For me, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start even thinking about this stuff until, 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I don't care. You know, it's food. No, it's not. Processed sugar, processed meats. No, that's not food. I'm sorry.
No, man, it's
our
not.
bodies want the real thing.
Yeah, I mean, it sustains life, but it's does it in such a way that's man, it's gunking up our engines, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been feeling really good lately as I've started to slowly chip away at, improving these parts of myself. I still have so far to go.
Oh, yeah.
God, I make some poor decisions still. Okay.
Well, dude, I mean, look at the last week. We've been so busy traveling around so much. It's like my body hates me right now. It's like, why did you eat that junk? Why did you eat pizza 3 days in a week?
We got the meat lovers special in the fridge every day.
No, thank you. No more.
Yeah, jeez. I know, man. My body feels like hell now.
I know. That felt like crap the past 2 days. It's like, all right, it's time to get back to some real food.
Yeah, Brookie made me some rice and beans and broccoli tonight, and I feel awesome now.
Exactly. It's like, okay, real food. All right.
Yeah. This Chance guy, I'll tell you what, man. Chance Garton is one of the freaking most fascinating guys I've ever met.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've gone down some rabbit holes, Chance. We're just talking about you, bro.
Oh, cool. I'll hear it, I guess, whenever I go through and throw the episode together, huh?
Yes, you will.
Yep. You got to wait.
Yeah, well,
the
colon is quite a deep rabbit hole, my friends. It's crazier in there than you might imagine.
Yeah?
The kit that I was taking had a toxin absorber, which used ginger root and maybe a couple other herbs, as well as some kind of clay. and you mix it up and shake it up, and it immediately starts to expand a little bit once you mix it up with apple juice or water. So you shake it and then drink it pretty fast. You got to kind of chug it. And I imagine that stuff kind of expands in your colon as it's going through and scrapes against the walls and starts removing the layers of plaque and stuff. And the reason you have to do a long fast in order to get the most benefit out of it is because your colon might be compared to, say, a pan that you've cooked in without cleaning repeatedly, where there's a layer and then another layer and then another layer, and you can't scrape through them all until you scrape through the top layers. So it's definitely like that in my colon, I came to find out, or at least it was, because even though I wasn't eating solid food, excuse me, I was having huge bowel movements that definitely didn't all look like the cleansing stuff that I was putting through me. Because it was very black and there would be like weird chunks of stuff and weird big solid pieces. And I'll go full disclosure here. The thickness level of my turds improved. Like they were getting gradually thinner as I got older, leading me to actually think, as part of why I want to do the cleanse, that I might have even been accumulating enough to like have a bit of a blockage at some point of it. And yeah, after 5 days later, my poops were not so black. If you want to see how crazy they look, I'll put pictures on Innerverse probably, or links to pictures, not of my own poop, but of people's poop that did the colon cleansing kit, that like are particularly gnarly ones, because it's a real deal. Like your doctor might tell you don't need to do something like this, or that there's no such thing as mucoid plaques is what they're called. But yeah, I don't know how they can explain the stuff that I was pooping if it wasn't that stuff, because I wasn't eating anything. And by the end of the kit, the end of the fast, it was completely different. All that stuff wasn't coming out anymore. My energy levels were hugely swinging up and down. I would get fevers. I would get really cold. And I would get like random soreness in a part of my body that used to be hurt. Like my wrist that I fractured as a kid hurt, and then would go away. So what's supposedly happening is your body has more energy because it's clearing out its furnace, which is the root, your colon, where it's taking energy and creating energy. And in doing so, your body knows when it can and can't accomplish something. So if there was any unhealed damage in it that it didn't have the energy to take care of, then having extra energy because of doing this type of a cleanse allowed it to start taking care of that stuff. And the headaches and things like that, or random nausea bouts or tiredness, probably was coming from toxins getting released or heavy metals getting sucked out and being eliminated by the eliminating channels of the body naturally. I was peeing a ton. At the start of the cleanse, I weighed 180. And the end of the cleanse, the last night before I went to bed, I weighed myself because I was like, I wonder if I lost any weight doing liquid only. And I weighed still 180. And I was like, weird. It must be a lot of water weight, or because of how much sugar is in apple juice. Although I was getting no sugar added, like organic, pure apple juice, of course. You know, it was gluten-free, paleo-friendly, vegan, non-GMO, let's see, no, I was trying to think of more funny labels I could add to it. Like, it was all the correct labels, but anyway, drank a fuckload of apple juice. But this morning when I woke up, I weighed 171. And so that's how much I was peeing overnight. Yeah. So I did end up losing some weight overall from the cleanse. I was finally able to eat today, which was glorious. And I was literally bouncing off the walls after eating an apple for breakfast this morning, just an apple.
How many days was it again?
5 days on the liquid only. And you don't have to even go liquid only. There's 3 different ways to do this cleanse. There's the hard way, which is the best way, and the shortest way. And then there's a medium option where you just reduce your diet and you take this toxin absorber at night, and it's a more gentle process. And then there's a really gentle process where you don't change anything and you just take the toxin absorber for a longer period of time. So I elected for the hardcore best option, of course, because I wanted to do it right. And I will say I think that's why I was able to have that experience that I described of getting out of my body last night, was that removing some of the blockages to my primary energy center, your core, the dantian as they call it in Chinese medicine or qigong or tai chi, is what allowed me to have a fearless experience in the astral. Because I've come to understand that any type of blockages you have to higher experiences, whether that's in the form of being afraid of aliens coming to get you or other kind of paranoia or whatever it is, whatever mental barrier or mental framework that's holding you back is like a leak in your energy body, and an energetic leak. And it always has a physical correspondent. So you can heal things from the physical correspondent. And sometimes you have to. Sometimes the physical correspondent is so entrenched that it doesn't matter how much you're changing your belief structure. It's still not changing your belief structure enough to get rid of that blockage. So that's when something like a 5-day fast comes into play, because if something's not working right, turn it off and turn it back on. Just like at the computer or with whatever. And by stopping the intake of energy and by getting rid of unwanted guests and bacteria that aren't that helpful and reprogramming my bacterial enzymes to be able to eat healthier foods instead of bad foods. Because I was raised on a meat and cheese and bread lifestyle. I never touched vegetables or anything. So growing up at all. So having gotten to the point now in my life where I literally only want to eat fresh, organic vegetables. I started my own garden this year. I've never gardened before in my life. Right before my cleanse, I ate a piece of spinach out of my garden. It was the best tasting spinach I ever had. I was so excited. But yeah, it's that alone is like a miracle for me to be able to shift just my eating habits. Really?
Yeah, man, you've convinced me. We'll have to chat later about this, but meaning in terms of if you could help me with this, I think I really want to do this.
That's why me and my buddy Chris did it as podcasts, because we want other people to figure out that it's helpful. And guess what? This website, Secret Energy, has like an affiliate program where you can basically sell their products and get a commission. So anyone that uses my code to get the Secret Energy colon cleanse kit or any of their other products, if they have a lot of other good products, I will send you through PayPal the money that they give me. You will just get it cheaper. Or if you want to set it up for yourself, I'll get you invited to the affiliate program. And I don't know if you can buy from yourself and get the discount or not. If you can, cool. But whatever it takes, I want everybody to get on this that wants to, because it was really hugely helpful to me. And going back to talking about needing external energy sources versus balancing yourself and generating energy from the self, being able to take away food for that time and realize that food isn't my energy, isn't my true energy, that was really helpful. And it makes the energy that I do get from food that much more real in a paradoxical way.
What symptoms did you experience?
Well, yeah.
Were you pretty irritable? Was it really uncomfortable?
I was pretty irritable. I'll be honest. I was definitely irritable. Hangry. You're going to have to prepare for being hangry. If you're in a relationship with someone, they're going to have to be prepared for you to be hangry. You might just want to be left alone for most of the process. But I was able to go to work. On the second day of the cleanse, there was a show in town. Amazing fucking show. The Psychedelic Tribe. I highly recommend you go look up Psychedelic Tribe. I'm probably going to use the Psychedelic Tribe for the Innerverse episode that we just did as a song, because I want people to get into that guy. He's incredible. But
nice.
I was able to dance maybe the hardest ever. I mean, maybe not I went crazy hard that night, and I was on 2 days of no food at that point, and I did have muscle cramps and spasming during at points because no protein or something, and that sucked. And it does say to just lay off on exercise other than easy stretching and walking during your fast, but I wasn't going to miss that show. And so I was able to do that, and I was able to go to work Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, and function just fine. So it's not going to be something that derails your life. It does take some preparation. You're going to have to make vegetable broth ahead of time to take with you places if you're wanting to not feel like you're dying, because you have to drink vegetable broth. You're not going to be able to do it without that. Apple juice is not enough. I threw salt in it one time, but I always forgot.
Is that what it is?
I don't know. I mean, you're not literally going to die. You could probably go without it for 5 days, but I noticed that when I would drink the broth, I would feel a lot better for a little bit. It could, like, if you're really feeling shitty, drink some broth. But there were a lot of symptoms. It was kind of like being sick. I got cold. I would get feverish. I experienced all kinds of different discomforts as my body was going through a lot of healing, clearing out. It was doing a lot of work. It was some deep work. And it's really important to strengthen your root and to strengthen your connection to energy, your energy. And it's important to take into account what you've got inside you bacteria-wise. There are 10 times the amount of bacteria in your colon than there are cells in the human body. So a lot of those are going to be things that want to eat sugar. They're going to want to eat stuff that's bad for you. That's why you have cravings for that kind of stuff. If you do a hard reset, you can reprogram that entire ecosystem. And you might lose some of the good ones, but the good ones are, your body's going to be trying to hold on to the good ones. It knows what to do. It's amazing. I definitely recommend the cleanse.
I'm in.
That kid is going to do a cleanse.
We're going to blow up our bathrooms, bro.
Oh, cool.
You better get the plumber on speed dial.
You know, it's not that bad. You're not pooping all the time. You're not in the bathroom all the time. You're pooping 2, 3, 4 times max a day if you're doing this correctly. So yeah, it's a lot of times, but it's like you sit down, it flies out of you, you're done. It's very, it's very easy. Yeah, you don't spend time on the toilet. I will say, be careful with farts. This is a terrible. Like, the farts don't smell bad. The poop doesn't smell bad because there's not really any food in it. But I did have, I can't believe I'm going to tell this story to the internet.
This is the grossest podcast I've ever been a part of. I love it.
Yeah, if I tell this story now, then I'll have to tell it to Chris on my other show, But
this Hershey squirt.
Well, yeah. Well, you know the term shart, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was at work and I had a shart, dude. I thought it was a fart and it was not. There was a little bit of squirt came out, and I had to go in the bathroom and remove my underwear and clean them in the sink. It was a very humiliating moment in some respects, but it was also like, it was funny. It wasn't the only thing that happened to me during those 5 days that was like a physical or an external symptom, I would say. Like, my body was going through and healing old injuries, so places where I'd been hurt before would flare up, but also old situations were popping up, and like old thoughts were coming up, old memories were coming up. Like, if like that
burger that you ate the night that you met your ex-wife was,
you never know,
peeling away from your intestines, man, and there you go, you thought of her.
Yeah, so luckily I don't have an ex-wife, but that could happen to you. Yeah,
sad for any.
That could be your experience,
That'll be mine, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess like the having a shart thing was sort of revisiting a very early time in childhood where I know as a kid there was probably at least a couple of times where I pooped and I shouldn't have. You know, we all been there. It's life.
Such is life.
The accidents.
And so I just went with it, and it wasn't that bad. No one knew that it happened at work, so really, no harm, no foul.
No harm, no foul, dude. Well, now your whole work, if they listen to this, will know. And I hope that
nobody from work will, but I wish they would.
I know, man. Imagine everyone in your office on that at the same time.
I wouldn't be able to work there anymore because they'd be like, "Why are you still here, dude?" after I dropped all the stuff I dropped earlier in this episode.
Full disclosure. Chance, we got to wrap this up. I gotta go.
I knew you were about to say that. I was about to say the same thing. I gotta go to bed.
I gotta go put my girdle to bed. So this is amazing, dude. This was we had the back-to-back podcasts. I mean, kind of very symbolic. Yeah, doubleheader, symbolic of like our new partnership together in really bringing this forth, dude. And we're gonna support each other in any way possible in terms of the content that we're creating on both of these podcasts. And hopefully, people will start hearing, more and more people will start hearing the conversations that will be had on these podcasts, because I think they will, totally help their lives. And let's hope now, now Richie and I are going to go clean our colons. Okay? This is going to happen.
Yes. Yeah, and anyone else in the LOC that wants to do that, hit me up. And I want to say thank you again so much for inviting me into the community, for being so open to me, and for supporting me as I launch my own platform, and realizing that the more we both grow, the more we both grow. And I really appreciate you guys letting me rant like I have in this episode. And I want to actually propose, like, if you guys want to do this regularly, anytime that you have the itch to make a podcast, like it's been a little while, hit me up and we'll record one. And I'll do the same with you guys, and we can just alternate being guests on each other's show every once in a while going forward. Kind of like, the great Rogan has recurring guests that you would expect to see at least every month or a couple months. So why not? Maybe we do that, because we could talk forever.
Dude, so let it be written, so let it be done. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Of course that was going to happen, right?
Definitely.
Well, geez, man, what a trippy world. Especially a couple of guys who all really, were impacted by the Joe Rogan podcast, and on some eerie, weird way. Now it's like we're creating our own version of it. And it's not a copycat thing. It isn't. I mean, every community should have a podcast, We should be creating our own content for our own individual communities, I would love to. I mean, imagine being in a community of the 200 people you love most. Well, shoot, man, I'd like somebody to kind of be like a newspaper guy, because I can't hang out with all 200 of them. But I love them, and I care about them, and I kind of want to know what's going on. I want to know, you could listen to. Imagine that, where we come back to like a real localized journalism. I think it could be really awesome. And
it's happening. We're taking the tools into our own hands, brother.
That's it.
Hell
we are the culture.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're turning into pumpkins, as Joe Rogan says. And we just want to thank you guys for this beautiful launch day, man. Launch day of Lords of Consciousness media site. Huge, huge moment. It's one of the biggest moments of my life, and I'll say the fears that I've had that have brought me here, I've slowly overcome them. And on the day of this launch, the thing I've been technically fearing the most, it's like the biggest relief of all time. I feel just so good. Like, so many things are opening up for me, because I've been kind of going after the things that I'm scared of. And it takes time to get there sometimes, but when you get there, you know it. You get that acknowledgement from job well done, man. You're doing it. This is it. So keep going. Chance, so good to have you, brother. Sending much love to you. Okay.
Yeah, much love to you guys. Thanks to all the LSC. Really great to meet you, Richie. Can't wait to talk to all three of you, all two of you. And
yes, coming soon, man.
I like to talk to myself too, so I count myself.
Get your ass out to Arizona in June for the gathering, man. It'd be freaking awesome. See.
Seems like I probably should, huh?
Yeah, dude. Get in a car, man. Just drive out or something. Make it happen.
We have a lot of rabbit holes to go down together.
When's the gathering? Plug that real quick.
June 24th through the 26th. We're having the second gathering of the Lords up in the mountains of Arizona. And last year was our first time doing it, and we ended up having 27 people or something like that.
I think so.
I'll be there.
And it was, the best weekend ever. I mean, it was unbelievable. So they're only going to get better, I think, because we're going to have more people this year. And when you finally kind of put these connections together and you get it's like this, but being around 30 people or 50 people or however many it's going to be in this most amazing environment of the mountains, the Ponderosa Pines of northern Arizona. It's a psychedelic place, man. Beautiful. The Southwest, dude. I love it out here. And so amazing energy gets created, and just people being able to express themselves, man. Finally being able to, like, feel what it's like to be accepted and not the competition, not the rigmarole that we're so used to in these relationships, where it's you feel like you got to prove yourself or what. None of that. So, brother, we love you, dude. Lords of Consciousness podcast. Peace out. Hope everyone's doing well, and happy 420.